We've all seen it in the movies, right? A character's in a coma, and the family's gathered round, playing their favorite song, hoping for a flicker of recognition. But what's actually happening in that person's mind? What's the real story behind this incredibly mysterious state? Well, today, we're going to dive in and separate the Hollywood script from the hard medical science.
So let's just get right to it and tackle the biggest myth of them all. Is a coma basically just a really, really deep sleep? It sounds like it could be, but the answer is a hard no. And understanding why is absolutely key to grasping what a coma truly is.
Okay, so just look at the difference here. On TV, you see patients hearing stories, and then one day they just pop their eyes open, perfectly fine. But in reality, it's a world apart. A person in a coma is profoundly unresponsive. You could be setting off fireworks next to them and you'd get nothing. They don't even respond to pain. So it's not some peaceful sleep. It's a deep, complex state of unconsciousness. So what's the official definition? Well, a coma is a state of prolonged unconsciousness where a person cannot be woken up. And yet the word itself comes from the Greek for deep sleep, but honestly, that's where the similarity just stops dead in its tracks. A sleeping brain is super active, cycling through different stages, dreaming, but a comatose brain, its activity is drastically, dangerously reduced. This brings us to the really big question, why? Why does the brain do this? What is it actually trying to accomplish by entering this shutdown state in the first place?
Well, a coma can be triggered in a bunch of different ways. It could be from a physical blow, like a serious head injury, or it could be something internal, like a stroke or a brain tumor. But it can also happen because of drug or alcohol poisoning, a really bad infection, and believe it or not, sometimes doctors actually cause one on purpose. The best way to think of a coma is as the brain's last-ditch effort to protect itself. It's like slamming a big red emergency shutoff switch. By dropping into the state of super low activity, the brain is trying to conserve every single bit of energy it has for one critical job, trying to heal itself from some kind of catastrophic damage. And that idea of protection is exactly why doctors sometimes induce a coma. See, after a major injury, the brain can swell up, but it's trapped inside your skull, which obviously doesn't stretch. That swelling is incredibly dangerous. It can crush brain tissue and cut off oxygen. So by putting a patient into a coma, doctors can dial down the brain's metabolism, reduce that swelling, and give it the best possible chance to recover. And this leads us to another really crucial point. The word coma isn't just one single thing. It's actually a broad term, kind of an umbrella, that covers the whole spectrum of different states of unconsciousness. And telling them apart is incredibly important. So let's break it down. You have the vegetative state where a person might make sounds, or yawn, or even open their eyes, but these are just reflexes. There's no actual awareness behind them, which is just heartbreaking for families. Then there's catatonia. That's a state of total unresponsiveness. Brain death is when all higher brain function has stopped, permanently. And finally, you have something called a stupor, which isn't really a coma, where a person can be briefly woken up, but only with intense stimulation, like pain, before they fall back into unconsciousness. So while the brain is in this protective shutdown mode, the rest of the body is facing its own silent but very, very serious battle. A patient in a coma is completely dependent on life support. IVs for food and water, ventilators to breathe for them. But even with all that amazing medical care, the simple fact that the body isn't moving creates two huge physical dangers: muscle atrophy and bed sores. The first threat, muscle atrophy, is based on that old principle: use it or lose it. When your muscles just lie there, unused, day after day, they start to waste away. And for a coma patient, this is a massive problem. It means that even if their brain manages to heal, their body might be too weak to ever follow, creating a whole new mountain to climb in recovery. And the second threat, bed sores, can be even more terrifying. When you're lying completely still, the constant pressure on your skin, especially over bony areas like your hips or heels, can cut off blood flow. If that happens for just a few hours, the skin tissue starts to die. This creates these horrible open wounds that can get infected and, in the worst-case scenarios, go all the way down to the bone. But, and this is a really important but, despite all these awful challenges, the story doesn't end there. Not at all. In just the last few years, brand new research has started to shine a light into this dark corner of medicine, offering some really incredible glimmers of hope. A major turning point came in 2013. Doctors were monitoring a patient in a coma, and they saw something amazing: activity in the hippocampus. That's the brain's memory center. Now, this didn't mean the patient was aware, but it was the first solid proof that a comatose brain wasn't just off. It was actively fighting, trying to repair itself. And that discovery changed everything. That finding in 2013 just opened up a floodgate of new ideas. It got scientists thinking, if the brain is active, could we find a way to communicate with it? Could we maybe even jumpstart it? And that very question set the stage for a truly remarkable experiment just a few years later, in 2017. You've got to hear this because it's just extraordinary. Scientists worked with a man who had been in a vegetative state for 15 years. For 15 years! They started stimulating something called the vagus nerve. It's like a major data highway connecting the brain to the rest of the body. And the results were just astounding. The patient moved into a state of minimal consciousness. He wasn't awake, not in the way we think of it, but for the first time in over a decade, he could follow an object with his eyes. But, the researchers themselves were very careful to add some crucial context here. While this was a huge, huge step forward, it's not a magic bullet. It's not a cure. Every brain injury is unique, which means every coma is unique. What works for one person might not work for another. So what this all really means is that our fundamental understanding is changing. We're moving away from seeing a coma as this complete black box, this total mystery. We're now entering a new era where science is actually finding some of the keys that might one day unlock consciousness, offering real, tangible hope where there used to be only silence. And all this incredible progress leaves us with one of the most profound and difficult ethical questions in all of medicine. As science starts to blur the line between unconsciousness and awareness, it forces every single one of us to ask, how long is long enough to wait? There are no easy answers here, only the deeply personal challenge of defining what hope and life really mean. Thank you for joining this explainer.